Hi, my name is Katie, and welcome to my channel. We're going to talk about books. Okay, why did I want to start a channel? The best reason is because it's a fun creative outlet. It's just something for me to do on the side, and it gives me a reason to read more. I am a pretty prolific reader. Sometimes, I kind of average like 80 books a year. But besides that, I just like to read, and I like to talk about what I'm reading with people, and I like to say whether it's good or not. I don't know, really, I just love to talk about books. Okay, so I should probably tell you what I read most often, just so you know like what to expect. To be honest, I'll read anything. If you give me a book, I'll read it. I read a lot of historical fiction, a lot of literary fiction. I'll go through the classics sometimes. I was a history major, so I do read a lot of like history books. Specifically, probably American history. Actually, specifically presidential history. That is probably, if you're like coming over to my apartment and looking at my shelves, there's a lot of presidential history books. Also, the First Ladies is a very interesting topic that I feel like doesn't get enough coverage, but it's really so like interesting and fun to learn about. Okay, when it comes to history and like history books, mostly I do love the sort of like, I don't know the exact term, but like social history. So like what were people actually doing every day? What were their relationships like? What were they doing for work? I like those sort of more detailed daily lives type of history. I do tend to read like a lot of backlist books, mostly because I spend a lot of like my time at Half Price Books or some of those other, more like secondhand bookstores that are really fun. So I tend to get really behind on books I already own because I have an incredibly nonsensical way that I read through my TBR. It's basically based on a random number generator typically, but I actually just made a board game that we'll have to show you sometime later. So I don't really get through my TBR really fast. I think right now, I have like 80 books in my TBR. I literally, in that closet, I just have a cardboard box full of books from when we moved that's just hanging out there because I haven't read them yet. Okay, so now we're gonna get specific and talk about some of the books I've actually read. About right now, when we're filming this, it's like halfway through September, so I've got 4 books so far this month. You'll notice that most of them are Book of the Month books. So what happened is I got really behind on my Book of the Month books. I think I read like January and February and then just stopped, and now it's September. So this month I really focused on getting through all of those, like 6 Book of the Month books. Because look, if you're a Book of the Month subscriber, you know that if you do the little challenge, you get a prize at the end. And this year, the prize it's like a denim hat and it says, "Reading is sexy." And look, am I ever gonna wear that hat? Do I have a reason to wear that hat out in public? No. Do I desperately want to get that hat? Yes, I do. So we're gonna be reading all of my Book of the Month books this month to get caught up. Our first book of September is None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. So I feel like this book has been pretty hyped this year. I've actually never read any Lisa Jewell. This was my first one. To give you like an idea of what it's about this famous podcaster who meets this random lady at a bar, and it turns out that it's both of their birthdays. They're birthday twins. And so she decides to do a podcast about this random lady, and then it basically all goes really bad after that. Okay, so I gave this one 4.5 stars. I thought it was really good. It was fun. It was interesting. I read it in like one day. It kept my attention that much, which is pretty good for a thriller. All that to say, I don't know how I feel about the end. It got a little crazy, but in most of these thrillers, you just know that like they're gonna save him, he's gonna be fine, they're gonna be happy at the end. And this one, it kind of, it went the other way, but it did, it subverted my expectations a little bit, which I did appreciate that. The other thing about this book that maybe like kind of kept it from being 5 stars is at the very end when she kind of flip-flops it on you. Like I don't know, that's how I felt about it. This is how I feel about the ending at that very end. But besides that, everything else, like, it was fun, it kept my attention, it was a thriller, it was great. Okay, our second book for September is A Talent for Murder by Peter Swanson. This one is also a thriller mystery. It's actually the third in a series. It's in the Henry Kimball, Lily Kittner series, I think, by Peter Swanson. I got it from Book of the Month too, and it was a good one. It's a thriller, right? You're supposed to be confused and people get murdered and it's scary. Yeah, it was good. To be honest, that is how I felt about this one. I like the premise. I wish, spoiler alert, fast forward if you don't want to hear this. I wish Martha hadn't been murdered so soon. Like, I wish we could have gotten more from the plot of, like, I think my husband's a serial killer. What do I do? Like, that was so interesting to me. And honestly, the whole, like, Lily part of the plot and with Henry Kimball, I wasn't really interested in that. I was more interested in, like, what does this lady do? She thinks her husband's a killer. But she got murdered, so we don't know. But it was good. I think overall I gave this, like, this was like a 3.5 stars for me. It was fun. It was good. If you get it from your library, you should read it. Number 3, The Prince of Tides by Pat Conroy. So this one was given to me by a 92-year-old man named Gabe from my husband's grandmother's retirement community. He said these were the finest sentences he's ever read. He was right. It was really good. So this one was 685 pages, and I read it in 5 days on our family beach vacation. That is not the average for me for an almost 700-page book, but this one really was. Like, I was craving reading it. That being said, it's a lot. It's a lot to, like, digest and handle. I'll tell you what it's about, actually. That's probably important. Okay, for this one, I'm just going to read you the back of this book sentence, because that's going to tell you the best. So it's a family saga that spans decades. It's the story of the volatile Tom Wingo, his brilliant but troubled twin sister Savannah, and the complex and damaging family legacy they share. And that's a pretty good description of this one. A lot of it is spent on Tom, Savannah, and their brother Luke's family history and the way they deal with their parents. The other thing in here is perhaps, I knew it was coming, right? I knew there's some foreshadowing in here that tells you what's going to happen, but it was perhaps one of the most horrific things I've read in a literary fiction, historical fiction. I can't even explain it to you. That being said, like, I don't think that, I don't think that takes away anything. This book is still a 5-star for me. There's actually on the back, there's a review from, it's a San Francisco Chronicle that I think sums it up in much better words than I ever could. It says, you put this book down feeling you have emerged from a terrible, wonderful spell. And that is exactly how I felt. It was terrible and horrifying, but it was also wonderful. And it was enlightening and great, and I'm very glad I read it. Our last book for the middle of September is The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I feel like this one is also one that's been, kind of like the Lisa Jewell one, it's been really hyped up a lot, and people really love it, at least from what I've seen. And I really liked it too. It's definitely it's undecided right now. It's a 4 or a 4.5. It's somewhere in there. And this one is about a teenager, Barbara Van Laar, I think that's how you say that. She disappears from summer camp that it's owned by her family. So it's her family summer camp, and she disappears. And you find out, it's in the description, so this isn't a spoiler, but her brother Bear had also went missing from this place, this land, 13 years before that. So that's what you're into, you're figuring out this mystery. So I didn't realize this while I was like reading this book, but I've read Liz Moore before, right? I liked the writing, it was really good. I liked the characters. Barbara is such a fascinating character. I did really like Judita? I don't really know how you say her name. But Judita was such a fun view of like a police detective, especially a woman police detective in the 70s. That was really cool. It was really good, and I would recommend it. Like, you should pick it up and read it, but I don't know. It was so good, but it didn't scratch the itch, but it was good. I liked it. Okay, so that was the first half of my September reads. So I have 6 Book of the Month books left to read, and I want to try and read them this month, so I'm all caught up and I can get that challenge in. But I have a week left So we'll see how that goes. Okay, I thought it would be fun if at the end of these videos, this may be just for me, but if I throw in a little like, what am I reading right now? What am I watching? And what am I enjoying listening to? First up, we're gonna do what am I reading right now? And that would be Bleeding Edge by Thomas Pynchon. So Thomas Pynchon is my husband's favorite author. We've read like, I think 2 books before of Thomas Pynchon's, The Crying of Lot 49 and Vineland. And both of those were good. Pynchon is one where like, I enjoy reading him, but he's also so nonsensical in the moment that I really enjoy the book when I'm done with it. Next up is What Am I Watching? And the thing I have been watching this week on repeat that has been making me cry laugh every time is My Viewers Made Songs About Me from Jen X Pen. If you don't follow Jen, you should. She is, I think, the funniest person I have ever seen on a camera. And yeah, you should go listen to all of these songs that she made. And I truly think if I did not include a Jen video in my first YouTube video, I would be really letting Jen Nation down. What am I listening to? This week, it's been Beacon Hill by Damien Jurado. That one, again, it's my husband's favorite musician, but this one, actually, I've been listening to since high school, and it just hits all of the nostalgia centers for me. It's so good. It's so tragic and depressing, but also so good, and I think you should go listen to it. Thank you so much for watching. This was so much fun for me, and I hope it was at least kind of fun for you. And if it was, you should go subscribe to me, and then you can come back and watch our video next week. And I hope to see you there.